Will Linux become illegal in the United States after the passage of this new bill? Let's talk about it. Thanks for checking out this video by Switch Linux. If you like this type of content, subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so. Leave us a like and a comment down below. And today we will be talking about the U.S. whole federal law on age verification. We're going to talk about what this is, what it means, and I know I have seen some smaller channels come up with headlines, video titles, Linux will become illegal. Clickbait. Stop falling for that crap. If this law were to pass, and I think that's an interesting bar to question, then it would just mean that Linux would have to, on some level, and somehow be forced to, and somehow get around an impossible task of making sure that every operating system verifies every user. Again, because Linux is so disjointed upon so many different countries, so many different places, and in so many different ways, and that anybody could just download the source code, modify it as they want, and republish it any way that they see fit. This isn't really something that is on a practical level really able to do. And of course, all these laws are put together by these absolutely brain-dead politicians who think that computers and devices are nothing more than walled gardens of Apple's and Android devices, which in and of itself is a fundamental problem. These two companies, Apple and Google, are behaving like monopolies. In fact, Google was ruled a monopoly despite it being less monopolistic than Apple, while Apple was not under a similar court case. And then their approach is to lock it down more to make it more of a monopoly, and somehow that's okay with everybody. But then we are now basically, everyone assumes everybody has either a Google phone or an Apple phone, and everything is walled garden, and that the operating system has this easy proprietary way to make sure that every age is verified of every user on the internet. These politicians need to resign. They seem to be brain dead. But let's go ahead and chat about what is going on. Of course, from its FOSS was one of the main Linux places I tend to source some news from. They have a little bit of a discussion, but at the time they released their discussion, the full text of the bill had not yet been replaced. They cover things we have covered on this channel, including the California's AB 1043, which is an age attestation. First thing, let's go ahead and get these definitions right, because people are completely misusing these definitions. Attestation means a person goes in, sets it up, and attests as to what their age is, or the age of the user is. Verification means an external source must verify that the attested age is correct. California bill, Colorado bill are attestation bills. There's no external oversight. You say what it happens to be, and then the operating system must behave accordingly. Now, the Texas law and I believe the Mississippi law were verification bills. That meant that an external source has to verify that the information you are attesting is correct. So those two things are different. And if we have to have some nonsense rule like this, attestation is the one that we want. Verification is the one that we don't. In reality, we don't want any of these, especially since the text of the bill itself contradicts itself. We'll kind of point that out as we go. Of course, the Colorado bill, all of this discussion about these age verification stuff and attestation stuff happened right when the Colorado bill came out. I did the video on that, and then it seems like everybody in the world did videos about that. Of course, I'm the one that covered the California bill 3 months, 5 months, 6 months before that, which is kind of funny. Once again, I get predictions right. Of course, I don't think I was as hard on it as I thought. I actually compared the Texas bill and the California bill, calling the California bill bad but better than the Texas bill. So there's always that. This is put together by Josh Gothamer of New Jersey. And so you guys in New Jersey, you'll need to primary this gentleman out of the office, put somebody else in. I mean, vote Satan in if he's the other alternative you have. I mean, get him out of there. Get him out of there, you know. And it has a co-sponsor. I forget who the co-sponsor is. A Republican out of New York is the co-sponsor of the bill. Oh yeah, there it is. Elise Stefanik. is a New York Republican. Whoever is going against Elise, vote for the other person. Okay, just get him out of there. Get him out of there. Vote him out. Vote him out. That's democracy in action. All right. So the title of the bill is to require an operating system providers to verify the age of an operating system and for other purposes, and they're calling this the Parents Decide Act. Well, I as a parent would decide I don't want any of this nonsense. Where's my choice? And of course, it's kind of funny because how do we verify the age of a minor? Interesting. Because these politicians don't know the difference between attestation and verification. We'll get into this when we get into the actual text of the bill. So it is just introduced. It's now going through committee. Who knows? Committee might shoot this down, but this is so egregious. We need to start talking to all of our representatives and anybody of your representatives who are on that committee. Tell them this bill is stupid and dangerous. Be much more polite than I am saying in this video. You guys know actually in real person, I'm actually very polite and very quiet. You wouldn't seem like it, but you know, I seem just like a raving lunatic. I'm not that way in person. I'm actually very quiet. Kind of neat. They make mention over here that they just assume everybody's in the Apple or Google ecosystems, but the way the title says Linux distributions and other open source operating system platforms would also squarely fit within these scopes. Of course, representatives also voiced support with several groups, including all of the people set to profit off of this, or guys like Meta who just don't want to have to deal with protecting people on their own front. Of course, they were just found guilty of their social media by jury trial, found guilty in both New Mexico and California of actually contributing to the harm of minors. But in the intervening days since that article came out, the actual full text has been released. This is a whopping 6 pages. It is very quick, and we're going to go ahead and have a look at what it says. Now, I'm going to go down and I'm going to look at the brief definitions first. There's really only 5 definitions here to keep in mind, so let's look at these first. First is an app. It means any software, application, or electronic service that may be run or directed by a user on a computer or mobile device for any other general purpose computing device. So any form of package, software, application, anything that can run on whatever device happens to have zeros and ones inside the internal circuits. The app developer is a person who owns or controls an application available for use in the United States, whether or not it is written somewhere else. If it's available for use in the United States, once again, how do you possibly enforce that? You cannot tell the guy over in Sweden that he has to code by United States laws, despite it's simply a package which is put up into some distribution, which is then duplicated across the entirety of the internet for somebody to download and install on their computers. You want to drag the guy in from Sweden? You're going to tell him, "Hey, you need to owe us a fine." Let's see how's that doing for UK, asking the guys from was that the Kiwi Farms, or is that Reddit, or is that it's 4chan? Yeah, just sending them pictures of giant rodents terrorizing cities. Yeah, that's about how effective it needs to be. So the commission, the term commission means the Federal Trade Commission. The FTC has oversight over this. Of course, this is the same group that the current iteration has shot down the one-click cancellation rule. You know, these guys are not pro-consumer. Operating system, the term operating system means a software that supports basic functions of a computer, mobile device, or any other general purpose computing device. Now, this is where some people have also misquoted, in my opinion, and I'm not a lawyer, so take that opinion with a grain of salt. General purpose computer device means something not specialized. So a basic smart refrigerator, smart microwave, smart washing machine, smart dishwasher would not be applicable to this. But something like Samsung's been doing, where it's basically a modified Android tablet inside of it, it might, if you can do more functions on that than those limited to the scope of a refrigerator. Now, why does a refrigerator needs the internet? Well, we might need another philosophy class for that discussion, which we're not going to talk about here. But I read general purpose computing device And I say a computing device that is not specialized. It's not like an embedded system like in an ATM or your car infotainment system or, Lord forbid, a toaster. Unless, of course, you can play a game on your toaster while you're waiting for your toast to pop. And if you need to find something to fill in that time while you're waiting for your toast to pop, you have serious mental problems. Check yourself into an asylum. Okay. All right. Last one. Operating system provider is a person that develops, licenses, or controls an operating system on a computer, mobile device, or any other general purpose. So that's an interesting phrase as well, which also does not align itself with reality. So or controls. Well, those of us in Linux, we can control our operating system. I install Linux on my computer and I can modify things. In fact, my Linux Mint here is modified because there was a bug in Linux Mint that if you change something in the audio inputs, probably an artifact from Pulse Audio, that would cause some things to mess up. So I actually ran a script that disabled that feature. I effectively modified my operating system to behave differently. Therefore, I am controlling my operating system. And in so doing, I am effectively become the one who controls this. So am I now liable to the FTC that my operating system is not collecting my age? That's an interesting question to have as well. Now, of course, something like Windows, where you can't even change, the color of some basic things. I can't go in and say, I would like a transparent panel. Nope, you can't do that. All right. You're not the one in control of your Windows computer. All right, let's go ahead and have a look at what the actual text happens to say. So in the requirement here, an operating system provider with respect to any operating system of such a provider shall carry out the following. Okay, so this is where you get fun. All right. It requires the user of an operating system to provide the date of birth of the user in order to set up the account and to use it. So you have to provide it. But there is also provision down here that requires it to be verified. If the relevant user of the operating system is under 18 years of age, require a parent or guardian of the user to verify the date of the age of birth, and develop a system to allow an app developer to access information as is necessary collected by the operating system to carry out this section in any regulation promulgated under the section to verify the date of a user. So this is where it says, hey, the operating system must make the date the age of the birth date of the user available to the person. But there's a further section down here we'll get to that says it can't leak any information out. By very merit of you saying you have to provide the birth date of the user of the operating system, you are implicitly forcing the operating system to leak private information. Did this guy go to some lame public school and the lowest level, maybe New York City or something? New York City spends something $40 or something $1,000 per student, and they're ranked 49 out of 50. I mean, it's insane. All right. Of course, this co-sponsor from New York, it might make sense. Although, curiously, New Jersey actually has a really good education system, curiously. Safe harbor. An operating system provider may not be held liable for violation as long as they do the following things. So, enforcement by the Commission, unfair or deceptive practices, a violation of section or regulation promulgated under the section shall be treated as a violation. Okay. And the powers of the Commission, they shall enforce the section and any regulation under it by the same means. So basically the FTC is the one in charge. Here's the actual regulations. These are what the bill has to do. So C here is all about who is in charge of regulating it. The actual regulations in the bill. Okay, so not later than 180 days after the enactment of the act, they will carry out a bunch of things. Number one, how an operating system can verify the date of birth of a parent or legal guardian. So this is not attestation. This is verification. The Commission, the FTC, will have to say within 180 days, how does the operating system prove that you put the correct date into the computer? Okay, that is the first thing. Number two, carry out the requirements described in subsection with respect to an operating system of such a provider may be shared. So, secondly is, how does the operating system provide the information of the birth date of the user. Okay, then this is curious. Data protection standards related to how an operating system shall ensure the birth date is collected by the operating system from the user or the parent or guardian of the user to carry out it, but it is collected in a secure manner to maintain the privacy of the user, and it is not stolen or breached. If these morons can figure out in Congress how to not have a computer system be breached, they deserve a Nobel Prize. Are we in utopia? We have found the magical land where a law by two incompetent morons of Congress have solved the problem of computer hacking. But again, I will point out, the operating system has to have a means to share that birth date with the app developer. So now every single scummy app developer is going to be asking for the age of it and then passing that data on to other people because guess what? They don't live in the United States and they're under your jurisdiction. This law is so brain dead. But leave it to our Congress to pass it anyway. I mean, let's not forget the SAVE Act right now, super controversial. It simply says, hey, you have to actually prove your identity and that you legally have a right to vote to register to vote. Not even to have that ID with you to vote, just to register. It has overwhelming support by both Republicans and Democrats. Yet the morons in Congress chose not to pass it. What's going on with that? So, I mean, we got to show a serious show of bipartisan, not on my watch, to not let this thing get through. But there we are. We have to have ways that the system can protect it from being leaked while we leak it to every app developer who asks for it. Got it. Awesome. They'll also have to determine how an operating system shall provide that an app can access the information collected by the operating system provider to carry out in the subsection. So you can't leak it, but you have to leak it to everyone who asks. Am I the only one that seems to think there's some cognitive dissonance going on in this bill? Did a bunch of monkeys write this? Was it ChatGPT? To verify the date of birth of the user of an app or an app developer. Okay. Ensure the parent or legal guardian of a user of an operating system who is under the 18 is allowed to control what such a user is able to access on the device. Oh. God. And then we have the briefing to Congress. Of course, they'll kind of talk about how they're going to magically make the data leak to every app developer, but not leak at all, and how to stop computer hacking. And then they're going to have a report about how they're actually going to do this kind of stuff. And then, of course, we get down to our definitions. I am obviously not a legal scholar, but if this thing happens to pass, we need to vote out every single person in office who voted for this. Like, even if it doesn't pass, vote every person out of office who votes for this. This bill is utter nonsense. If it gets out of committee, vote off everybody who is in that committee. If it goes to the president's desk, vote out the president. All right? This is insane. It is incomprehensible. It is incoherent. It is completely full of loopholes. Like, I have not seen 6 pages of nonsense. I mean, it just looks like it's so loopy. It looks like SpaghettiOs. I don't know, man. This is crazy. And I think that the brain that spawned this forth might have been made of SpaghettiOs. I don't know. Will you guys let me know what you think about this? Of course, as stupid as this is, it probably will pass anyway, but we'll go ahead and see. But this is the latest one. This is not yet even out of committee. This is the opportune time to write every congressperson, every senator, everybody, make a big stink. Make sure this thing does not make it out of committee. And then the sad reality of American politics is it won't make it out of committee, and they'll go back and they'll rewrite it, and they'll keep on reintroducing it every couple years. because this is not about protecting children. This is about data collection. This is about verifying every single user on the internet. Same thing Microsoft has been doing with those Windows 11 accounts. Got to force everybody onto that Microsoft. Oh, you got to verify your phone number with that. Ooh, we got to know exactly who you are. Ooh, that's kind of crazy. That's what this is about. If they really want to protect the children, you need to stop doing all this nonsense and pass real laws for digital child neglect. That's what you need to do. Because the people without the kids should not be punished for that. And I got news for you too. This is another thing as I was thinking about these things today. The parents, like the parents who don't monitor their kids, who don't care what their kids do, whose kids tend to get most hurt by this technology, they do not want to deal with the whininess of their kids. So those parents are going to provide those kids their own identity documents. They're going to set up their own computers to be used any other way. You will not have saved one child because the parents who already care about their kids are already taking the active and available steps to protect their kids from things on the internet. And those that do not protect their kids from the internet, they're just going to go ahead and verify their kids with their own accounts. They don't care. If they see the setup and goes, oh, well, this is for my 13-year-old. No, my 13-year-old's 18, because they don't want to deal with their kid pestering them. Oh, you need to provide an ID? Okay, here's my ID. Because they don't want their kid pestering them. Because they're already bad parents. They're already neglecting their kids. We need digital parental neglect laws, not age verification in our computer systems. Let me know your thoughts about all that in the comments down below.